The sky above Sector 7 was always dark, always dusty. Ships flew low over rusted rooftops and broken towers. Most people avoided this place. But not Officer Ryan. He stood outside a cold, quiet warehouse, holding a scanner in one hand and a stun pistol in the other. Beside him stood Officer Telena, tall and blue-skinned, her sharp eyes scanning every corner. She was not like the other aliens. She trusted humans, at least this one. Still, she whispered, "Ryan, are you sure about this?" Tip. "There's no sign of life." Ryan nodded. "My contact said this is where they hide the cargo before offloading." He took a breath and stepped forward. Boots crunching over broken glass. The steel door creaked as it opened, releasing a foul chemical smell. They walked inside, weapons ready. The warehouse looked empty. Metal crates stacked in corners, flickering lights above. Telena scanned for life signs. "Nothing unusual," she said, but Ryan moved toward a section of wall where the floor had drag marks. He touched the wall, then looked around, and found a small control pad hidden behind a box. He pressed a few buttons, and the wall split open, revealing a hidden room. Inside was warm, too warm, and then they heard a tiny cough. Ryan raised his weapon, but he didn't fire. There were shapes inside, small ones, curled under blankets. Hiding, he stepped closer and gasped. "Kids," he said quietly. "Alien." Children, thin and shaking, with big eyes that stared up in fear. There were at least 12 of them. One had bruises on her arms. Another held a younger one close like a shield. None of them spoke. Telena knelt down, speaking gently in Galactic. "Standard, it's okay. We're not here to hurt you." A little girl with silver skin and purple eyes slowly crawled toward her. She wore a dirty collar around her neck, glowing faintly with a red light. Ryan noticed the tags on each child's wrist, numbers, barcodes, auction IDs. He clenched his fist. They were being sold. Telena nodded, her voice cold, like property. Suddenly, the smallest girl walked to Ryan and reached up. He knelt and took her hand. She looked into his eyes and whispered in perfect English, "Please, don't send us back." That one sentence hit Ryan like a punch to the chest. These weren't just lost kids. They were hiding from someone powerful. Telena looked around, checking for cameras, traps, anything. She tapped her communicator, but it gave static. "We're being jammed," she said. "They knew we might come." Ryan stood up, holding the little girl close. "We can't leave them," he said firmly. Telena hesitated. "You know what happens if we report this officially?" Ryan nodded. "They'll disappear like the last time." They remembered that case. Swept under the rug, no survivors, no justice. He looked around at the children, some now holding each other, others still frozen in fear. He whispered, "Not this time." Telena walked to the door. Scanning for movement outside, she turned to him. "We move fast. Take only what we need." As they began gathering food, blankets, and small medical kits from nearby crates, one of the kids pointed to a locked crate and made a drawing in the dust, a symbol Ryan recognized. It was the mark of a government lab one shut down years ago for illegal experiments. Ryan exchanged a look with Telena, and she whispered, "This goes deeper than we thought." Just then, a red light flashed on Ryan's wrist. Commotion detected outside. "We're not alone," he said. Telena grabbed her blaster. "Get the children ready. We may have to run." Ryan held the little girl tighter, heart pounding. Whoever had these kids was coming back, and Ryan had just made himself their #1 enemy. But looking down at the tiny, trusting face pressed against his chest, he knew one thing for sure. There was no turning back now. The warehouse felt colder now, even though the children huddled together for warmth. Ryan paced slowly, while Telena checked the outside perimeter through a narrow vent. The children hadn't spoken much, but their eyes followed every move. Some of them looked too weak to even stand. "We can't stay here," Ryan whispered. "If whoever's running this shows up, we won't stand a chance." Talina didn't answer right away. Her face was tight, jaw clenched. She had seen this before: government labs, secret auctions, kids disappearing without a trace. This wasn't just crime. This was sanctioned cruelty, hiding under protocol. Ryan moved toward the far end of the room where an old console blinked weakly. He tapped into it and accessed a shipment log. The words made his stomach twist. Bioassets, classified, transfer to Vester facility. He turned to Talina. "There. Moving them off-world. Tomorrow," she replied, already reading the same thing on her scanner. "That's why they're here tonight. It's a stop before launch." A small rustling sound behind them. One of the children approached, dragging something wrapped in cloth. It was a stuffed toy, filthy, torn, but clutched tightly. She offered it to Ryan without a word, then turned and walked away. He stared down at the toy. Speechless. "We need to report this," he finally said. "The Federation has to know." Talena's voice dropped. "The Federation is why these kids are here." Ryan blinked. "What?" "I've seen it before," she continued. "They allow some things to stay hidden for the sake of peace, trade, power." He wanted to argue, but the silence in the room was louder than any proof. Talena stepped closer. "If we report this, the kids will vanish into a system designed to forget them." Ryan clenched his jaw. "So what do we do?" "Just hide them ourselves." "Yes," she said, her voice firm now, "until we find someone we can trust." Footsteps echoed outside, heavy boots on metal grates. The kids went stiff, some whimpering, others burying their faces. Ryan killed the lights and motioned for silence. Taliana aimed her blaster at the door. Her back pressed to the wall. A shadow passed the small slit in the steel door. Voices not in Federation standard, but in a dialect only smugglers used. Ryan's breath slowed, heart hammering. Then silence again, whoever it was. They were checking the warehouse but hadn't entered yet. As the danger passed, Ryan moved quickly, whispering orders to Tiela. "There's an abandoned station. Not far from here, underground. We can take them there," Talena said. Catching on immediately, he nodded. "It's off-grid. No signals, no surveillance." The children were frightened but didn't resist. Some held hands, others needed to be carried. Ryan looked over his shoulder once more at the cold room they were leaving. He would never forget it: the smell, the silence, the fear outside. The city was asleep, but danger was wide awake. They moved in the shadows, avoiding patrols and cameras. At one point, a light swept past them, and they froze. Ryan held the smallest child close, waiting. Then the light moved on, and they breathed. Again, it took them 2 hours to reach the entrance, hidden behind a pile of scrap and old power coils. The hatch opened with a hiss, revealing a deep stairwell into darkness. Ryan looked at Talena. "Once we go in, there's no contact with the outside." She nodded. "That's the idea," as the hatch closed behind them, sealing the world. Out, Ryan felt the weight of 12 tiny lives pressing on his soul. He sat down and finally asked the question burning in his chest. Why were they smuggling kids like this? Talena took out the collar one of the girls had worn, turned it over, and showed him the mark. A symbol Ryan hadn't seen in years, an old government science division that had been shut down for war crimes. "Because," she said, "some monsters don't need to hide in the dark anymore." Ryan stared at the mark, and in that moment, he knew. This wasn't just a rescue. It was a war, and it had already begun. The underground station was cold, dusty, and smelled like old metal. But to the children, it was better than the cage they had left behind. Ryan and Talena did their best to clean a few corners, spread blankets, and hand out water from old supply crates. There wasn't much food, but the kids didn't complain. They were too used to hunger. Ryan sat beside the youngest girl, who still hadn't spoken. He offered her a small protein bar. But she only stared at it then. Slowly, she leaned against him and closed her eyes. Talina watched from across the room and said softly, "They trust you." Ryan didn't smile. He couldn't. His mind was on what came next. They had saved the children from that warehouse, but they hadn't saved them from the people who owned it. Suddenly, a sharp beep echoed through the room. Talina grabbed her scanner and looked at the screen. "Someone just accessed my identity profile," she said, her voice low. "Federation command." Ryan asked. She nodded slowly. "They're tracking us." Ryan stood up fast. "We didn't report anything. They don't need a report." She replied. "They just need a reason, outside, in the cities above." News reports were already painting a story. 2 officers missing, 1 suspected of treason, another of helping a known smuggling group. A blurred image of Ryan holding a child was broadcast across 3 colonies to the world. He wasn't a protector, he was a criminal. "Somebody leaked this," Ryan said, pacing the dusty floor. Talina looked up at him, or someone planned it. They both knew what that meant. This wasn't just a hidden crime, they were part of something much larger. The moment they found those kids, they became enemies to whoever was really in charge, as Ryan tried to boost the station's broken signal relays. One of the older children quietly approached Liana. He held out a torn scrap of paper, covered in childlike drawings. She took it and stared, her eyes narrowing. There were no words, only picture sketches, needles, masked figures, glowing. Machines. The final drawing showed a large building with a symbol on the roof, 3 circles inside a triangle. Talina froze. "I've seen this," she whispered. Ryan walked over. "What is it?" "An old lab," she said, "Vester Prime facility." "But it was destroyed in the uprising," Ryan said, confused. She shook her head. "Maybe not completely." The boy pointed at one of the drawn cages, tapped it 3 times, then tapped. "His own chest. He was there," Talina said quietly. "They all were." Now it made sense why these kids were being moved in secret, why they had tracking collars and auction IDs. They weren't just being sold, they were survivors of experiments. And someone wanted them erased. Ryan gritted his teeth. "We need proof. Real proof." Talina nodded. "And we need help, but who can we trust?" Silence filled the room again until Ryan looked at the old communication box. "I know someone," he said. "A retired admiral. He was forced out after trying to expose this exact facility years ago." Talina raised a brow, "And he's still alive." "Barely," Ryan said, "but he still owes me a favor." Talina agreed, but warned him. "Once we contact him, they'll know exactly where we are." "I don't care," Ryan replied. "If we don't act now, those kids will disappear." Again, he turned the power on to the comms unit. The hum of energy rising through the floor. The children stirred as the lights flickered on and off. Then, a voice crackled through old, tired, but familiar. "Ryan." The voice said, "You picked a bad time to call." Ryan leaned forward. "Admiral Corrin, I have 12 kids in danger. The ghosts of Vester Prime are hunting them." A long pause, then the Admiral said, "I'll send coordinates and a name, meet her, and don't talk to anyone else." The transmission cut. Ryan turned to Talina, his face serious. "We have 1 shot." She nodded. Already helping the children prepare to move again, in the shadows above, wanted posters spread across digital walls and among the stars. A ship began to move, a ship with only one mission: find the children and erase every trace. The sky above the old landing zone was gray and silent. No ships flew, no patrols passed. It was the kind of place forgotten by both war and peace. Perfect for people trying to stay invisible. Ryan adjusted the hood of his coat and stepped forward. Behind him, Talina guided the children out of the underground tunnels, one by one. Their small faces peeked out, cautious and tired. The youngest clung to her leg, too afraid to look up. A single shuttle waited near the edge of the crater. It was old, paint peeling, barely holding together. But Ryan recognized the symbol scratched on the side Corrin's mark. The Admiral had kept his word. A tall woman stood beside the shuttle, her skin pale blue like ice. She wore no uniform, only a thick jacket and a calm, unreadable face. "I'm Liara," she said. "The Admiral sent me." Ryan gave a slow nod, but didn't lower his weapon. "Where are we going?" Liara didn't blink. "Somewhere they won't look." She motioned for the children to board, and slowly, one by one, they climbed inside. Tlina stayed close, her eyes scanning for traps. Only when the hatch closed did Ryan finally breathe. The shuttle lifted, slow and heavy, into the clouds. Inside, it was warmer, though still not safe. Ryan sat with the children, checking their wounds and bruises. One girl had a deep scar behind her ear. Looked surgical. Tlina examined it and whispered they put something inside her. Lyra looked over. A tracker, probably. Ryan's heart sank. Then they know exactly where we are. "Not anymore," Lyra replied. "We jammed it and will burn it out at the safe house." The shuttle flew for hours, weaving between cloud bands and meteor trails. They passed no checkpoints, no traffic, only silence and empty space. At last, they landed on a forgotten moon cold, cracked, covered in ash, but below the surface. A new kind of shelter waited. Old tunnels had been converted into hidden rooms. Beds, clean water, medical tools, and real food. The children stared at it in disbelief. One boy even asked, "Are we allowed to eat this?" Lyra smiled gently and said, "Yes, you are safe now." But safety, they all knew, was temporary. As the kids rested, Ryan and Tiana sat with Lyra in a side chamber. She brought out a rusted metal box and placed it on the table. Inside were files, paper, not digital. "Hard to erase what isn't online," she explained. Ryan flipped through them, and his hands shook. Photos, logs, test results. Names children like these, all linked to Vester Prime. The facility hadn't been destroyed, only renamed and moved. One file showed a map, not a place on any known registry, but the symbol matched the child's drawing, 3 circles inside. "A triangle, it's still running," Tlina whispered, "and it's planning another shipment." Lyra added, "In 2 weeks," Ryan leaned forward, eyes burning. "We can't wait 2 weeks." Lyra looked at him, expression unreadable. "You want to go in?" "I want to stop them," he said, "for these kids." "And the next ones?" Tlina nodded. "We need evidence proof that can't be buried." Suddenly, a soft knock came at the door. One of the children, the older boy who had drawn the lab, stepped inside. He held out a small device, shaking in his hand. "I took this from the guards," he said. Ryan turned it over, a security pass with a working code chip. Tlina looked at it, then at Ryan. "This could get us inside." Ryan stared at the boy. "Do you remember how to get there?" The boy didn't speak, but he nodded, slow, serious, brave. Ryan's voice was low. "Steady, then we go tomorrow." Above them, satellites blinked and searched. Ships moved through the stars, carrying secrets no one was meant to find. And, far away, in a clean white hallway of a hidden lab, a man watched a screen showing a red dot blinking again. One child had come online, his face twisted into a smile. "They're still alive," he said. "Perfect." The safe house felt too quiet, even with 12 children sleeping in warm blankets, even with lights finally working and food on the table. There was a heaviness in the air, like everyone was holding their breath. Ryan stood near the old terminal, watching the map Liara had uploaded. It showed a mountain range on a distant colony, moon snow covered and full of tunnels. In the center was a hidden facility, marked only by that same cold symbol, the triangle with 3 circles. "They have guards," Tlina said from behind him, arms crossed, drones, cameras, biolocks. Everything I know, Ryan replied quietly. But we're not going to fight our way in. Lyra walked in, holding a datapad. I used to know someone who worked inside. She's still alive, she added, but she won't help. Unless she sees proof. Ryan reached for the security pass the boy had stolen. This is our proof. Down the hall, a cough echoed sharp and wet. Ryan rushed to the room where the kids were resting. One of them, a small girl with green skin and dark eyes, was curled up and shivering. Her skin looked too pale, too dry. Lyra checked her quickly, her calm expression slipping for the first time. She's sick, she said. Really sick? What is it? Talina asked. Lyra looked up. A parasite they used in the experiments designed to weaken test subjects before transfer. Ryan stared in disbelief. You're saying she's dying? Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, unless we get her the antidote. Where is it? Ryan asked, already knowing the answer. Lyra sighed. Inside that facility, Talina stepped forward. Then we're not waiting for tomorrow. No, Ryan agreed. We're going tonight. They prepared quickly. Ryan wore his old Federation officer, gear-worn, but still useful. Talina carried a compact rifle and a bag full of tools. Lyra handed them a small drive. If you can get access to their main terminal, copy everything on this. They left just after nightfall. The shuttle was quiet as it flew low across frozen plains and jagged rocks. The wind howled outside, and even the stars felt distant inside the facility. The girl's breathing grew weaker. The older children gathered around her, whispering stories to keep her awake. She smiled. Barely. Will I get better? She asked. The boy who had stolen the pass nodded and said, Ryan promised, as the shuttle landed in a deep ravine near the lab. Ryan and Talina moved fast, using old access codes. They slipped through a side door hidden beneath metal grates. Inside, the air was clean. Too clean. Bright lights hummed overhead. And security bots glided down smooth white halls. They ducked into shadows, timing their movements between each patrol in one room. They saw each rows of small beds with restraints. Empty now, but stained medical testing. Talina whispered, no child should ever see this. They finally reached the vault room where the antidote was stored. A single vial, marked with strange alien letters, glowed faintly in cold stasis. Ryan opened the case, took the vial, and slipped it into his jacket. Suddenly, red lights flashed alarms. Blaring, they had been seen. Run, Talina shouted, blasting a camera off the ceiling. Guards flooded the halls, shouting commands. Ryan held the drive tightly in one hand and the vial in the other. They raced through fire doors, past robotic arms and surgical tables. Blaster shots rang behind them. Talina turned and returned fire, covering Ryan as he sprinted through the exit tunnel. They reached the emergency hatch, slammed it open, and leaped into the snow. The cold bit hard, but freedom tasted warmer than anything. The shuttle engines roared, lifting them just as guards appeared on the ridge above. They escaped barely. Ryan sat in the back, breathless, arms wrapped around the antidote. Back at the safe house, Liara rushed to them. They gave her the vial, and she injected the girl without delay. Everyone waited in silence. Minutes passed. Then the girl opened her eyes, blinked, and whispered, I'm hungry. Cheers broke out. Small and tired, but full of hope, Ryan fell to his knees and let out the breath he'd been holding for days. They had won this round, but war was still waiting on the edge of the stars. The children slept peacefully for the first time in days. The sick girl now breathed calmly, her color returning little by little. But Ryan couldn't sleep. He sat alone in the control room of the safe house, watching the drive spin inside the old terminal. Lines of data filled the screen, logs, videos, orders. It was worse than he imagined. Hundreds of kids, maybe more, were marked for testing and shipment. Some were already listed as disposed. Others were marked in transfer. Each name burned into his memory. Talina walked in silently and placed a warm mug beside him. He didn't touch it. I thought I'd seen the worst of what my people could do, she said, sitting beside him. But this is beyond that. Ryan shook his head. They call it science, but it's murder. Talina nodded slowly, her voice cold now. And they'll do it again unless we stop them. Lyra entered next, holding a new message pad in her hand. They found our location, she said quietly. Ryan stood up fast. How? The girl's tracker restarted before we shut it down, just for a few seconds. Lyra replied. They traced it. Everyone in the room froze. Ryan didn't ask what came next. He already knew. We need to move the kids, Talina said. Split them up. Hide them across the outer colonies. No, Ryan said firmly. We don't run this time. He pointed to the screen, the drive still spinning. We go public. We show the galaxy everything. Lyra frowned. And? If they silence you before the upload? Ryan gave a tight smile. Then you hit send yourself. He backed up the data onto a second chip and handed it to her. If I fall, you make sure they don't. Outside. A sound echoed distant engines. Low and hungry. Talina checked. The scanner, dropships, 6 of them, coming fast. Lyra ran to alert the others. While Ryan and Talina gathered weapons, there weren't many. An old rifle, 2 stun pistols, 1 EMP grenade, not enough. The kids were rushed into the old cargo tunnels beneath the safe house. They didn't cry or panic, just followed silently, eyes wide. Ryan knelt beside the boy who had stolen the security pass. You? Stay down there no matter what, he said. The boy nodded and whispered. Don't let them take her again. Ryan gripped his shoulder, then turned and climbed the stairs outside. The night sky burned with the glow of incoming ships. Talina crouched behind the outer wall, blaster aimed. Ryan joined her, heart pounding. They were 2 people against an army, but this wasn't about winning a fight, was about holding the line just long enough. The first enemy squad landed hard, armored and silent. They moved with military precision, not like smugglers or bounty hunters. These were professionals. Federation Black Division. Ryan opened fire first. Drawing them away from the tunnel entrance, Talina flanked them from the side, picking off one, then another. But for each one they dropped, 2 more came. The wall exploded beside Ryan. Throwing him to the ground, he coughed, blood on his lip, but didn't stop moving. Talina grabbed him and pulled him behind cover. We can't hold them, she said. We just need a few more minutes. He gasped. She nodded, then tossed him the EMP grenade. Ryan looked down at it, then at the enemy dropship parked near the relay tower. If I hit that relay, their signal dies. You won't make it back, Talina warned. He smiled weakly. Tell the kids I said goodbye. Before she could stop him, he ran. Bullets and beams sliced through the air around him. He jumped over a wrecked console, rolled under a flashing light. The grenade beeped in his hand. 2 seconds left. He reached the base of the relay tower and threw it with all his strength. A bright white pulse flashed, then silence. Every enemy unit froze just for a second, but enough. Talina took the shot. Blowing the dropship engine apart, it spun, caught fire, and crashed into the ridge behind the safe house. The rest of the soldiers began pulling back, retreating. They had lost control of the zone. Lyra's voice crackled through the Upload complete. The files are out. It's everywhere. Ryan lay on the ground, smoke rising around him. Talina found him moments later, pulling him back into cover. He was bleeding badly, but smiling. They know now, he whispered. The whole galaxy knows. The galaxy was awake now. Every screen and channel filled with images of the children. Voices rose in outrage. Demands for justice echoed on dozens of worlds. Even on fringe colonies, people gathered to protest. The hidden labs were exposed. Their walls no longer held secrets. Back at the safe house, Ryan leaned against a battered wall. wounds patched but spirit unbroken. Children laughed in the next room, chasing each other through blankets and crates. Talina watched them with a rare smile, her rifle set aside. She whispered to Ryan, "They're free." He nodded, eyes soft. Because of them, Lyra joined them. Holding 2 cups of sweet tea, she handed one to Ryan and said, "The Admiral arranged a temporary decree. These kids are now wards of the public." Ryan's voice caught. "They have a home." "Yes," Lyra said, "and a family program is opening next week." Outside, a convoy of support ships landed, carrying food, clothes, teachers, doctors. Volunteers flooded in, all eager to help. A makeshift school rose beside the tunnels. Colorful banners fluttering in the dusty wind, children ran through the halls. Learning, playing, healing. Ryan walked among them, greeting smiling faces. The smallest girl who first whispered, "Please don't send us back," ran up to him. She hugged his leg and said, "Thank you, Papa." Ryan knelt, tears shining, and whispered back, "You're safe now, forever," across the hall. Talina spoke with officials, her uniform gone, replaced by simple clothes. She was no longer an officer, but a guardian. A reporter asked her, "What's next?" She looked at the children painting by a window and replied, "We build homes, not cells," that night. Ryan and Talina stood under a sky alive with distant suns. They toasted with cups of tea Talina had brewed. "Did you ever think it would end like this?" Ryan asked quietly. Talina smiled. "I hoped." He raised his cup to hope. She clinked hers against his, and to every child who needs someone, far above, the stars shimmered as if in approval. And below, 12 children dreamed of tomorrow, safe, loved, free, at last. A new family was born in the heart of the galaxy. And it began with 2 brave souls who refused to look away from the smallest light in the dark.